time, calling to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. I'd like to start this meeting off by acknowledging that we are gathered on the Treaty 8 First Nations territory in the long-standing presence of the elders and the ancestors of Treaty 8. And through this acknowledgement, we extend recognition and respect to the BC Treaty 8 nations and all those who call the Peace Country home. Moving to adoption of agenda, recommendation that the Council adopts the agenda for March 12th Committee of the Whole meeting. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Johnston. Thank you. Any discussion regarding things on tonight's agenda? Oh, I do actually have to throw in a late delegation, by the way. So we're just going to have probably just before the urban systems delegation. That's okay with you guys because hers is perfectly short. I'm going to change 7.1 to a delegation regarding farmers market here in Pouce-Coupe by Jocelyn Jones. Can I get a seconder for adding that to late item? Seconded by Councillor Johnston. Any concern regarding adding the late delegation?
No concern.
Wonderful. Okay, all those in favor?
In favor.
And that is carried. Thank you. So just to note that urban systems will be item 7.2 and Ms. Jones will be 7.1. Okay, so all those in favor of adopting the agenda with the change, can I get a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Johnston. Thank you. Discussion regarding the agenda? All those in favor?
In favor.
And that is carried. Thank you very, very much. Moving on to item number 4, adoption of minutes. Recommendation that the Council adopts the February 12th Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Johnston. I know it's all on you tonight, Councillor Johnston. Any discussion regarding the minutes? None? Mr. Svalsky, I just have a question.
Yes, Your Worship.
With the minutes, did I send in my PRD report for that meeting? I normally have like a report, but I know there was a couple I missed because it was like hairy canary time, so.
That was one of the meetings that was missed. You followed up with our February 26th regular council meeting with the next report.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure there were no reports missing on my end. So, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call the question then. All those in favor of adopting the minutes?
In favor.
Thank you, and that is carried. Wonderful. Introduction of late items, which I've already talked about. We're going to have Ms. Jocelyn Jones in. Okay, public hearings, none. Moving on to delegations. Oh, Ms. Jones, the floor is yours.
I'll just take a few seconds to introduce myself. I'm Jocelyn Jones. I was born and raised in the Pouce-Coupe area. I was raised on a small family farm out of Gundy. And I've always had a passion for the culture of farmers markets and markets in general. Last year we started a market in Dawson Creek and it grew quickly in support both from vendors and customers. The positive environment the market provided is one that I am hoping to provide to the village of Pouce-Coupe. In order to keep the market affordable to vendors, I am asking council to waive the fee for the community center. I found that in keeping table fees affordable, it allowed everybody to participate no matter how small of a local producer you are. This also helps aid in an all-inclusive vibe that the market provides. The market provides the connection between farmers and producers with the local community, and I truly believe Pouce-Coupe will benefit from this. For Pouce-Coupe, I would like to keep table fees at $10 per table, and we have a $5 charge for young entrepreneurs. Anybody under the age of 16, we like to encourage that market environment in the up-and-coming youth. This fee is used to cover operating costs such as insurance, licensing, and advertising. I have some ideas in the works to draw people out to the village. For example, my father-in-law, Doug Jones, has agreed to do sleigh and wagon rides a couple times during the year with the heavy haul horses, and one of our local car clubs that is manned by Ed Ma has also agreed to bring the cars and trucks out for the kids to look at as special guests. I have a couple food trucks lined up and hope once I receive a go-ahead from the village to secure some more events and more food trucks. I have already lined up vendors and I can guarantee that this list will grow as the momentum of people showing up will. Originally, I had suggested having the market start up in April. However, going forward, due to recently setting up the market in Dawson Creek, I was a bit of a learning curve. I feel like more vendors will be ready to show their goods in the month of May, and it will be a more successful month to launch. The market will operate outside of school hours and understands that if an event is booked, it takes priority over the market.
Okay, perfect. I just have a couple of questions. Does anybody else have any questions for Ms. Jones?
It was that the waiving the fee, that would be just the fee.
Yeah, that's well, Skylar actually knows the fees better
The
than I do.
long-term user fee.
The what, sorry?
Long-term user fee.
The long-term user fee. And then, do you happen to have the cost of that piece? I know, I'm so sorry for throwing you on the spot. No?
I don't want to quote it.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, you had mentioned running the market on a day of the week. What day of the week were you thinking of running it?
We are hoping to do it bi-weekly on a Friday afternoon. We think that way we'll be able to hit a lot of the lake traffic that is headed out to One Island, Boots, Swan Lake, people coming home from shopping in Grand Prairie, that sort of thing. And because we will be at the community center, our signage and our tents and everything will be visible from the highway, which is great advertising all in itself. We found last year at Coeur Lanes that was extremely successful. So we were hoping to run it. We would like to be in there at 3:30 when we're allowed to be for setup, open at 4:15 till 7:15. All vendors need to be out and cleared out by 7:45.
Okay, perfect. And then, Ms. Green, just so I remember correctly, the community center, as long as we're out by 8 p.m. is the agreement, right? So as long as she's out by 8 p.m., there's no extended cleaning fees for the weekdays. Thank you so much. I just wanted to get that clear. Okay. Any other questions, Councilor Woodall? Do you happen to have any questions while we have Ms. Jones here?
No questions. I guess the only statement would be might be something to look at exploring too for around our Canada Day festivities if there's already a farmers market type group established in Pusketubi.
Yes, I was totally chatting her ear off about that earlier, as well as we also host the all-women softball tournament here with Mr. Misey. So I had mentioned that to Ms. Jones as well. I would just like to say thank you so much for your willingness to bring this into Pusketubi. This is definitely something that we've been wanting to continue forward. I've been running the market the past couple of years, but I know that you're going to take what I started as something really tiny and make it grow even larger. So I'm so excited. And so I'm definitely looking forward to this. And I just want to double check on the insurance that you had mentioned insurance. So how much liability insurance do you have?
We now are required to carry $5 million,
$5
and
million.
it is liability insurance. So the market, basically, with the liability insurance, it runs kind of like an event insurance. So any accidents that happen on the premises, that sort of thing, that is what our insurance covers. The vendors in their vendor package are encouraged to carry their own theft or destruction of product, that sort of thing, insurance if they want to. Some of them through the Potters Guild, Soap Makers Guild, they're already covered by an insurance for allergic reactions, breakage, and that sort of thing. But the liability insurance that I carry will be for $5 million.
Okay, and then you had mentioned doing long haul, like sort of horse and sleigh rides, which I think is fantastic. Your insurance would cover that as well?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Their insurance would cover them.
Their insurance. Okay, perfect. Yeah, just double checking. Make sure that whatever dates you're thinking of having that happen, maybe just kind of let us all know so we know that there'll be horses doing their whole thing and that, wandering around.
And we're going to make sure they're on nice days. So like no icy days, no rainy days, no nothing like that.
Yeah.
Like on nice days, maybe for a fall harvest market or in the May month if it's really nice for the launch of the market.
Okay, perfect. All right, well that sounds wonderful. So, any other questions? No? All right, Ms. Jones, you are free. Thank you so much for coming out. It was wonderful to hear from you and give us something to look forward to.
I'm very excited.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Well, I would just like to make the recommendation, Mr. Sobolski. Could we add this to the regular council meeting in March, please?
Noted, Your Worship.
Wonderful. Can I get a seconder on adding that? Yep, seconded by Councillor Johnston. Do I need to call a vote for adding that to the regular council meeting? I forget.
We will require a motion to add that to the RCM.
Yes, okay, perfect. So I made the motion. It's been seconded by Councillor Johnston. I'm going to call the question then. All those in favor?
In favor.
And that passes. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, urban systems, you're up. Your turn, 7.2. Have a safe drive, Jocelyn. Thank you so much.
You guys have one of these little.
Yes, if we dropped this book from a building, we would take out survivors at the bottom. We do have it though. Yes.
I'll just have to do the presentation.
And Skylar, are you screen sharing?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, that's it here. Awesome. So yeah, I'm Megan, and this is Kimberly. We've been working on the Lagoons project, 2024 now into 2025. We wanted to provide you guys with a bit of an update on the project. Just construction's done for the 2024 season, and a bit of an overview of what we can chat about today is, what happened in 2024, some of the changes that happened throughout that project, where we're at budget-wise for the project, as well as what we can expect in 2025. And these photos here are just some examples of some of the environmental mitigations that happened on the project while they were working in the stream. They had sandbags on that top right photo, kind of keeping the water, trying to keep the water out and keeping the fish out, and there was someone out there collecting fish, and I can't remember how many.
Did we have a number?
I have a number, I forget the number, but it was significant. We would be surprised.
In fish?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then that bottom is just some fencing that's also protecting the fish. Yeah, construction completed in 2024. So, as you guys know, we only had permission from Water, Land, and Resources to do the first 200 meters of this work, which ended up working out because the contractor ended up taking longer to complete the work than anticipated. So total construction during 2024 was 8 weeks. In that 8 weeks, they were able to complete the first 200 meters out of 355 meters of the work, kind of outlined in that blue arrow on the screen there, as well as we worked with the contractor once we realized that work was going to be pushed into 2025. How can we mitigate some of those cost increases? So collaborating with the village staff and meeting with Blair on site in a couple instances to mark out where we could stockpile material. So that was another thing that happened in 2024 is they stockpiled things like riprap and some filter rock material because it was purchased in 2024 under the 2024 dollar
Budget amount.
Yeah. And here's just a visual of kind of the riprap when they were done at the end of November there. So this is kind of looking south. So changes. So there were a few changes that we worked with the contractor to complete, and some of them are still in the works, but budget-wise, they've all been approved. So supply and install new fencing / gate for the entrance of the lagoons, and so that change came about. The contractor had suggested upgrading this entrance specifically to help get the trucks in when they're hauling material. That way they can come down that industrial road and try to avoid the residential areas. So what ended up happening is they did come down the industrial road, but they did have to turn onto the residential road for a bit. They did get the gate installed this year, but it was a fairly good price for this gate. It was kind of a collaborative decision. So they were fronting all of the gravel and like the grading of the area, and then the village would purchase the actual fence. So kind of a collaborative approach. Everyone's getting benefits from it. So it was quite a good price, and they didn't install it in 2024, but it's still set to be installed in 2025. And that will also help this access. I know that there's been some issues with snowmobiles and ATVs getting in there, and so hopefully it'll be a bit more secure. So that one is one change that was done. As you know, there's also been project delays, specifically with the permitting from Ministry of Water, Wind and Resources. So due to that, a lot of the work got pushed into 2025. We did speak with the ministry a week or two ago, and they confirmed that we'll for sure have the permitting by the date that they want to start, which is July 15th. I believe they can't start until July 15th because of the fish window. So they told us that we would have permitting in either April or May for the remaining portion of the work. And so the specific holdup right now is that they are doing Indigenous consultation. And so they asked if we had done any of our own consultation, which was done for the grant funding for this project. So we forwarded a few responses to the ministry that we had received that said basically they had no issue with this project. So hopefully that speeds things up as well.
So the Indigenous consultation, that's the issue we ran into last time, right? It was more their department takes a very long time to get to it.
Yes, so last time we spoke, it sounded like they were in that phase. And
Like
when we
Groundhog
spoke
Day.
this time, I know.
Oh,
It
no.
sounded like they're still in that phase. So, but they did assure us that we would have it in April or May at the latest.
So I will ask again for this year, if you start, if the end of April's coming around and they have not done their side or they're taking too long, please let us know and we will definitely push the same buttons that we had to push last year. Because we can't just keep waiting to get the project done, right? So I figure if you guys are hounding them and we're hounding them and we're making the right phone calls, maybe they'll figure it out faster.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And actually, there was a good opportunity for the ministry to come out and they had a look at the project. One of the representatives, Leah, she got to actually come out on the site. She said, hey, would it be okay if I swung by and saw the site sometime? So we took her out while she was there and she got to kind of see it going on. And so I find that that kind of helps build a good positive relationship, and you know, they have pride in the projects that they're involved with. So yeah, so that's also a positive thing.
Was that prior to the election though, or after?
That's a good question. I don't remember. But
I feel like it would have been after, because I don't think we did any work before.
No?
Because when did we start? Because election was the beginning of October, right?
October, yeah.
I feel like we didn't start until, like, they were not signed until after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So remember the Thanksgiving weekend was
Okay.
a pause, so it would have
Okay.
been after.
Okay, I'm just thinking, I'm like, is that person still there?
Maybe would government have been in yet? I'm not sure, but it was after.
That's actually still the reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good,
She's still
okay.
there. So yeah, that's been good as well. Yeah, so the portion of work that's been pushed into 2025 is between Station 200 and Station 355. So finishing off kind of that last half. And the delays due to this have been fully covered by the grant folks, the disaster risk
And mitigation, yeah.
mitigation grant. So yeah, so we had reached out and gotten approvals for that. So everything is covered.
Good.
Yeah. So another change that happened is the toe buttress scope removal. So there's kind of a photo of the cracking here, but on November 2nd, tension cracks were seen and sliding between stations 157 and 190. The geotechnical engineer on the project changed the scope of the work to, initially they were supposed to be digging down and removing that toe buttress material and replacing it, recompacting it. But
They were
because
supposed to be removing the existing material, replacing it with new material.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so because of that, this cracking, they thought it was too high risk to be doing that. So that portion of the work was removed, and so they are really just placing more riprap on top of it. Yeah, they're signing off on it. It's still going to work, and so
A lot of times geotechnical work, it's kind of a balance of risks. Like, are you going to create a bigger issue digging this out and losing the whole slope than just putting some more material? And so based on it, and sometimes you can't tell until you start doing the work too and how bad it's going to be. And so at this point it was that balance of, we think there's a bigger risk to keep digging and causing a slope failure than just placing the riprap on top, so.
Yeah, and there was full-time geotechnical inspection out there to notice this, so,
And it did get worse than that crack, like that's the
Yeah.
initial crack, and then it did get worse than that.
that's
so.
what I could find in the, there's probably a better photo.
Yeah, it ended up sliding by about a foot, so.
And then after that, they were like, never mind, retreat, retreat. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, with that being said, so this scope was removed from the contract or deleted from the contract. However, the contractor had already purchased all of that material for this work. So there's kind of a bit of a balance of like compensation for that material versus, oh, what could we do with this material? So something else that the geotech had noticed during hauling of a lot of the material is that access road started really rutting. Yeah, and it got much worse. So the contractor gave us a new price to use that material that they had purchased to fix the access road with a bit of guidance from the geotech, what they would like to see. And so that results actually in a cost savings of about $173,000, which is great because they're going to fix the road and there's also cost savings. So
Yeah, wonderful.
The actual, like we did look at like, okay, what if you guys just kept the material and the village not do that? We kind of evaluated those options, and there was a savings to the project, but it was an additional, I think it was like in the 200 range, like you were only saving an additional,
Yeah.
not a significant amount compared to.
Well, and you know, with all the traffic we're now having on the access road and all the hauling, it does make sense to actually build that back up, and then that will benefit the whole project in the future.
And future upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant, those are needed in the future and whatnot, as long-term benefits.
for sure. So, and then this same change, we reached back out to the grant folks and just made sure that they were okay with this change. We kind of had a memo that broke down the two options: if we removed it entirely or had them repair the road. And ultimately, they decided that, yep, we'll cover that as well. So it falls within the budget, and the road got worse because of the hauling of this project. So. The last change that I've noted is geotechnical firms that are being used in this project. So the project engineer, Jeremy Zandenberg, he originally was working for SNC Lavalin, which is where the design and all of the very preliminary hydrotechnical assessments, that was through SNC Lavalin with him. SNC Lavalin was bought out or
Just
Changed
changed
names,
names. Sorry,
yeah.
it wasn't a new company, it was just rebranding.
They're rebranding to Atkins Realis, and so Jeremy notified us that he was moving companies to Clifton, and that we had a couple different options, what we wanted to do there. If we wanted to stick with Jeremy, the project could close out with Atkins Realis and then reopen with Clifton, or Jeremy could get another engineer on board at Atkins Realis and it could stay there. Ultimately, chatting with village staff, it was decided that it would be best to stick with that geotechnical engineer who has the whole picture of the project and everything that's gone on.
Ultimately, like, we like to keep whoever's engineer of record on a project, stay engineer of record. And this isn't, obviously this isn't just unique to this project. We're seeing this on most of our projects. We are moving to Clifton because really what was keeping us with Atkins Realis on other projects was Jeremy and his knowledge of the region and his knowledge on these projects and just the good service that he provides. So most of the projects I'm on right now that we were using, that we are now switching to Clifton as well. So it's not going to be a one-off in the region or anything else.
Yeah. And so the village has signed a new agreement with Clifton, and just something to note is that the fees have not increased or anything due to changing firms. All that's changed is the fees have increased due to the increased timeline of 15 weeks, which we can get into next year.
But it's still within our total grant amount. So we're not needing to seek any additional funding.
Everything's still covered. So I mentioned before that there was 8 weeks of construction in 2024. Originally, way back when we had done like preliminary estimates and applied for the grant originally, we assumed I think 5 weeks of construction. So when the bids came back and Procore was lowest bid and they were awarded the project and they gave us that, that schedule of theirs. They had shown 10 weeks, so that was kind of the first time that we had a few conversations about that. But now, once we've gotten into construction, because they were only able to do that first 200 meters of work, they did 8 weeks in 2024, and they're projecting 7 weeks in 2025, which increases to 15 weeks. So that's an additional 5 weeks from the 10 weeks we had discussed in construction inspection, from the geotech. That's an increase in general project management and project administration and invoicing, that kind of thing, as well as environmental monitoring. Now we've got the environmental folks that are going to need to do multiple trips different years. So that's where the fees, the professional fees have increased for us as well as Clifton now. So yeah, but again, we're still all covered by grant funding, which is great, and there has been quite a bit of capital cost savings for the contractors' work, for the actual cost of the project. One of them being that scope removal that happened, and another one being we had a few optional work line items in the project budget, which were for if we can't store this material on site and they have to haul it away and take it somewhere, how much will that cost? Well, luckily we were able to find a good spot on the site that everything can be dumped, which saves some money, which is great. And amongst there's been, we had like a $140,000 contingency line item, which we haven't really touched other than for the entrance, would really be the only main one.
So with the whole thing with the fish, we have to wait till July 18th, and then you're hoping to start shortly after that date, and there'll be 7 weeks of work, and then the work is complete, and that includes the roadway and everything?
Yeah, that's what their schedule showed, was starting right after July 15th, and then, it showed 7 weeks to complete it all. And I think the contractor also has a better idea of what it's going to take their folks to do this work, because now they've done half of it.
Yeah.
So I reached back out to them a week or two ago, and I said, hey, just wanted to make sure that this still seemed correct for you, and they said, yeah, and reassured us that they thought that that was good. Another thing to note, if it does take the contractor longer to do something like the road, in talking with the geotech, he doesn't think that full-time inspection and definitely not environmental monitors need to be there. So that's something that if that ends up taking them longer specifically, we're not worried about fees on our end.
And environmental monitoring for this section, because it is quite tight around that bend, it's a lot shorter of an area, and they only need to be necessarily on site when they're doing work right in the toe, and so kind of their methodology last year was to go all the way along rather than as many sections, so it required longer being on time for environmental monitoring here. I don't know if they're planning to do it all in one section or in a couple, but it's not quite as long of a time, because you get the stuff done in the toe and done and out of it, and then the environmental monitors can be off site, so some savings there too.
Yeah, so they kind of refined their methodology a bit in the first half, which is good. So yeah, so overall still there will be like quite a bit of project savings there, which is great. Yeah.
So they're currently sitting just under 300,000 estimated remaining budget.
Okay, perfect. As long as our goal is not to use the whole thing.
No. Okay, 2025 works. So yeah, that remaining portion that Kim mentioned, which is kind of along the bend, which is a little bit shorter. Again, we anticipate getting that permitting in April, May. The remaining portion of that work between station 200 to 355 will be completed. Yeah, 7-week construction is what they anticipate, as well as repairing that lagoon access road.
Okay. And then just so we're all on the same page, if you could just give us an update on that permitting by the end of April.
Yeah.
I really want to get on them. I don't want to be in the mess we were in last year where September 1st we were supposed to start, and then September 1st I found out the permit hadn't gone through, right?
Yes, for sure.
So we're definitely like, teamwork makes dream work. So if you guys are not having any luck, let us know and we will start counting them, honestly, and then extremely important that we get that. It would suck if we get this far in and then they like take forever on the permitting. We're right. It's like Groundhog Day. I don't want to do Groundhog Day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, and so that's all we had for you guys. If you had
Okay.
questions or anything, but.
All right. Councillor Woodall, do you have any questions for the ladies while they're here?
No, that answers all my questions that I had. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Any questions, Councillor Johnson? No? Wonderful presentation, ladies. Thank you so much for coming out and giving us this update. That was wonderful. I know.
Oh, screen sharing, we're good.
Yeah, it is lovely to see you as always, and we will be staying in touch, especially as we're dealing with the permitting thing. Every time, hey, it's always on the province. I'm telling you, we're gonna be nice. They have a lot currently going on, but
We want to get this project done.
I know, right? It's just like we're so over it. It's like every couple of months it pops up again. So thank you guys so much. You're free to stay, but do not feel like you have to. And be sure to drive careful because the roads are not great. Yeah. Thank you. Have a lovely night. All right, delegations are done, so we're moving on to item number 8, unfinished business. So 8.1, Councillor Johnson, where read that?
Recommend the council reviews the corporate communications policy and provides feedback in preparation for a motion on the March 26, 2025 regular council meeting.
Can I get a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Will. You can second your own recommendation, but even try. All right. So is this? Please forgive me, Mr. Savalsky. My brain is not working today. Is this the one that was brought back for reconsideration? For more context.
So it's same as presented, just the previous conversation regarding this at the February 26th RCM meeting got a little muddled. So we're just trying to focus on trying to redirect that conversation towards an outcome.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, yes, as Mr. Savalsky stated, there really hasn't been any change. Councillor Johnson, you didn't really have a chance to take part in the discussion that we had last time. And so this is the policy that we're looking to bring forward. A lot of the language that's within here is already within our social media policy, as well as there's another policy it's in that I cannot think of. What's the other one?
Code of conduct.
Code of conduct, thank you. I was thinking that, but I didn't want to say it. So this is a lot of the same language that is already within those. It's just that this is actually attached to the corporate communication side of things, but it's a lot of that repeat language that we do already have in those other policies. If you have any questions, Councillor Whittle, do you have any questions regarding the policy?
No, I think it's a good policy. The only thing is what came out of that discussion, if I remember correctly, was just more of a definition, just to make it clear that, you know, if an individual councillor wanted to say something, you know, outside of the quote unquote corporate line or what the village's official line is, we just need to preface it with, in my opinion. So I think that's understood by most members. But yeah, that was the biggest one, is just just that definition. I don't know if that would be an easy change, Mr. Savalsky, to do that in definitions or as an example in there, or does it really need to be in there because it's kind of implied already, right?
It's already implied, and with the redundancies in place from our code of conduct, social media policy, and then this tertiary policy, we really think that the controls and redundancies would be in place to null and void additional augmentation or adding for, let's say, provisions regarding that matter. But again, if we're looking at trying to satisfy all parties when it comes to this interest, that's not a difficult change either to make.
So that's really just the discretion of this council, if you're interested in making that.
You know, I'm going to be that guy. Would it be possible, I don't know if we have to bring it back to another COW meeting or if we can bring it to the council meeting, but would you be able to possibly, you know, as is, or, you know, play with that language a little bit to kind of reflect that and then kind of have the two options to weigh out at the next council meeting? Because I know the other members, it was quite a passionate topic for them, was just the clarity of the language.
I appreciate that, Councillor Whittle. I wouldn't be able to bring it back for the March 26th RCM meetings. That would just be, unfortunately, a meeting regarding moving forward with action items or business items. But I could bring it back for the April committee of the whole meeting for further discussion and perusal.
Is it time sensitive that we move this forward, or?
No, not necessarily. This is just ultimately best practices.
No, thank you.
Can I just get some confirming language on what specific area you would like to see changed and what specific language you would like to see added in, just for myself and staff, so it's nice and clear?
Yeah, so I think, in all honesty, just a definition. So, just for clarity, like personally, I like the language the way it is, and that's why I was asking staff, if they could massage it a little, because I know the other members had concerns about the definition of, what's our personal opinion versus what is the official line from the Village of Pooskoopi. So that was my only concern with it. Myself, I'll vote in favor of accepting it as the way it is, but it's just wanted to bring that discussion up so that it's clarified that, that's already covered in the redundancies that, if councillors speak, out of turn, I guess, against the village or their own opinion, that we're still allowed to do that and we're still covered for that. We're just...
No, and I totally get that. I'm just looking to find out what area you would, so is it under 3.2 under council members, you'd like to see it added in there? Is it under communications, coordination?
I would leave it up, in all honesty, I would leave it up to staff's discretion where it would fit best, even if it, like I said, if it goes into an appendix of definitions within the document, right? Wherever staff feels it would, if it's worth exploring, right? I know, like I said, I understand where we're coming from and where it's at, and I like it the way it is. It's just, I know the concerns of the other members that aren't here tonight. They wanted that language abundantly clear.
So,
And that language and expression was to be included in section 3.2, your worship, so that is correct.
Okay, and can I just get clear, concise on what that exact language is? I'm sorry, I'm just being very particular because I'd like to know exactly what the changes.
I believe it was pertaining to a preface of qualifier that this endorsement or opinion is of personal context and not of public body.
Okay, and so that would just be a third bullet point.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Do you need a recommendation and a clear motion from Councillor Whittle regarding that, Mr. Smolsky?
Would, especially if we wanted to see that contrast of the varying options, and for that to be referred back to the April committee of the whole meeting, we would require a motion.
Okay, Councillor Whittle?
So I'll make the motion that staff brings back the communication policies with the changes to 3.1 as an option for the April committee of...
3.2.
Sorry, what was that?
3.2.
Sorry, 3.2. Bring back those options first for further discussion at the April committee of the whole meeting.
Okay, seconder? Seconded by Councillor Johnston. I'm definitely interested to see what staff brings back. I know that there were members of this council that felt quite passionate about it. I know that the concerns were about kind of muddying up the confirming language within the document, which is what sort of the original conversation was around, which is why staff wasn't super on board with initially adding that, and why I also was not on board at that time with making that change. But I think it's definitely a conversation that does need to happen, and I appreciate your willingness to, take their concerns under consideration. And so it just, our biggest thing is just making sure that by adding that in there, the document doesn't lose any of its formality or teeth within it.
And then the other concern with that too is that adding that in there, do we have to go back and amend other documents, right? So I think it's definitely worth the discussion, and the general consensus from the last time we brought this up is we wanted to be able to have all of council present to discuss this a little bit more. So again, we find ourselves in a boat where we don't have all the council together. So that'd be another reason why, with the recommendation to move it to the next committee of the whole meeting so that we can flesh this out a little bit more.
So Mr. Stabalski, before you spend any more time sort of changing this, drafting it, and doing all those things, my question to you is, by adding in that language, does it affect the formality or the teeth that are within the document and could technically sort of muddy it up?
We could, because ultimately it'll come down to the discretion of the court of law if it's ever to get challenged. My recommendation still stands as the same recommendation that was provided in the previous committee of the whole, that the document and policy presented is strong within its own will and justification, that it wouldn't require any further editing regarding designation of personal opinion or context. But again, this is for the discourse of public office.
Yeah, and see, it's those concerns why I'm even going to have a difficult time voting in favor of your motion, Councillor Woodall, just because the recommendation coming from staff is from a legal perspective. And so my concern is that by even adding that line in, this document could potentially be challenged for the detriment of the
And I mean, don't argue that fact in all honesty, but if it came to a vote, I would probably vote against changing the language myself, but I do think it is warranted a discussion with all of council. And, you know, I can't in good conscience just push it through knowing the concerns of other council members, right, and the language around it. So I do honestly think it is worth a discussion. I do agree with you that it is going to muddy the documentation. We might have to change it. But again, at the same time, you know, due course, I think, like I stated, it warrants a further discussion.
bring in. You can't leave, we won't have quorum. All right, hang on, we're just gonna have to take a quick break. Councillor Johnson's work phone has rung, so pause for 2 minutes.